Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about personal brands. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, should software engineers focus on building their personal brand? Yes and no, I would say. My suggestion to you is to start with getting strong technical skills. That should be number one. And number two should be to have strong social skills. And then number three is to have a strong personal brand. But I also would suggest to you that you think a little bit about it more specifically. What does a personal brand really mean? Because the popular way of thinking about a personal brand, which I think some people I don't know why this is. I suspect that is sort of the same phenomenon we see in small children, where a small child won't be able to tell good attention from bad attention, if that makes sense. This is one of the reasons why you sometimes have children make up stories or create like situations where it's really bad because they might lie or something like that, and then then you have parents who overreact to that lie or things like that because the child. And the same thing with children who might misbehave sometimes, because the child just wants the attention. They can't discern that this is actually a dangerous situation that they are creating because they're getting the attention. And the same sort of phenomenon happens in social media. People who are more concerned with getting attention and likes than for what reason. And that's why I think that you should really think about the sort of personal brand that you cultivate. An example would, the classic one is when you tell adult film actors that they're going to ruin their life if they do like pornography or something like that, right? If they do porn, basically. And sure, you can think about it that way because, if you do porn when you're in your 20s and then when you're up in your 60s, you might not be so happy about the stuff that you did. I don't think that that's always necessarily true, but it is something that is sort of illustrates the sort of idea that I'm trying to sell here, where that the personal brand that you cultivate should be given some thought to. And that's why I always preach, if I can, when it comes to branding or things like that, to make it a brand, if you're going to do it, which is not aimed towards making you popular. It is aimed towards you sharing your findings, your life's lessons with the world. Because that is usually a brand that it has a positive effect and it does the right things, but it doesn't do that at the cost of you compromising your integrity. Let me explain that a little bit. So when you do interviews and when you look for jobs and things like that, you guys might think that being famous or like being very popular, etc., is a very good thing. And yes, it absolutely is if you're looking to get employment and so forth, to a certain point. So if you have, for example, something on your CV that stands out, or you have done something extra, if you have a YouTube channel or something like that, that is something that might be noteworthy. It has a value in of itself. But guys, take it from me, even at my little tiny hobby channel, most recruiters, guys, and most companies that I interview for, they don't know that I do this. My coworkers don't know this either. Because in order for them to know, I would have to be one of the most famous YouTubers out there. Most companies wouldn't even know the people behind some of the largest channels if they were in the interviewing process. And it's not why why they get you don't get the sort of benefits that you might think because it's different. If you're a movie star or something like that, then your brand is a very different sort of thing. It's it's a very important part of what's going to get you into the different opportunities that such people have. But for us software developers, it's not the same thing. So when you get into the interviews or job opportunities, the thing that really matters at the end of the day is how well do you know your stuff. because every single person has a like a reviewing process they have to go through before they get the job. And that is usually a code test or a personal interview or something like that if you want to work for a company. Even if you want to be consultants and so forth, there are absolutely situations where that's not so important. Like if you run your own company or something like that, that's a sort of different story. But that's always going to be part of it. And even if you would be the most famous YouTuber or whatever influencer in IT there is, if you cannot get through that process, what's going to happen is that you're just going to convince people that, oh, it's all fame, right? It's all this nonsense that this person has been doing, but they're actually not really good and very good. It's the same thing I tell people. Just because the thing that makes people want to work at Google is that the brand of Google is very attractive. But if you do actually start working at Google and then you leave and then you're not actually as good as you might think, you're gonna realize very quickly that brand wears off. It's like one of them rub-on tattoos. It's gonna fall off immediately because it's just an indicator that you have skill. But in our community, in the IT community, it's not like it is in other areas where the popularity is in of itself enough. It's not going to be enough because here you actually have to produce measurable results. That is very difficult to do if all you have is a personal brand. But as a supplement, it's a very good thing, and that's why what brings us to this sort of personal brand I think that you should consider building for yourself. And that is a personal brand that I prefer to call sort of like your identity within the community. What are you extra interested in? Start by learning the basics. Start by learning how to be a good software developer. And if you have the energy, guys, most of the software developers don't have the energy to do this, and that's fine. You don't have to, because as I said, if you just have the social skills and the technical skills, that is in of itself enough. But if you want to go the extra mile, it's good for you to share some of the learnings that you have with the rest of the community. Think, in my opinion, at the very least, a little bit like a scientist here, where if you want to be established in the scientific community, it's really not just about you getting a very, very advanced degree and putting years and years of effort into something. It's also about your findings and you making other people aware of your findings, sharing your findings, if that makes sense. The way that you get established in the scientific community is not like you just get a degree and then you're done, rather than you go on television. No, you have to produce work and like papers and projects, etc., and show people that we did these experiments, I did this, I've done this, etc., and here are my findings. And you present them not necessarily with the intention of becoming famous for it, but rather because it is actually something that you believe is going to bring value to other people, or it's something that you do because it's part of the work that you are doing. It's something that drives you, right? And the reason why this is such a strong personal brand is because it's really about you and your experiences and the things that makes you extra motivated. And you're going to get some value from that every single time, practically. It's not going to be the only thing that matters, but it's going to give you a personal brand that you can stand by, because it's a personal brand of accomplishments. It's a personal brand of knowledge and experience. These things are the things that matter the most when you get a little bit older in software development, because when you get to the higher levels of software development, the thing that really matters here, guys, when you want to be an architect, or when you want to be the people the person leading all of the other software developers, is that you have to have the experience and knowledge and thought leadership and vision, all of these sorts of things, right, to actually make a significant impact to the companies. If you want to be a rock star in, say, Google or things like that, you having a little YouTube channel or something like that, or like making some Medium articles, is not going to cut it. What's going to cut it is the weight of your personal brand. And if you think about people like Martin Fowler, Uncle Bob, and other sorts of profiles, these guys have cultivated a lifetime of achievements as a personal brand. It's just like with like serious scientists, they do the same sort of thing, right? And that is a very different way of personal branding than what you might see on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, like where you have these people who go for like maximum amount of likes. Likes are great, guys, but in our community, likes are not as important as the quality of the brand that you are cultivating. So what I want you to take away from this is that, yes, I think that focus, if you have the time and like you want to go the extra mile, it's always good for you to cultivate a personal brand. It doesn't have to be like you becoming famous or anything like that. It has to do with more with you showing, getting into your passions within IT and doing things that are what I like to call conversation worthy. That is a very good investment for you, because once you have the foundations, in other words the technical skills and the soft skills, then the thing that is really going to make it very easy for you to get every single job is usually your passion. And a strong personal brand, which is related to, that sort of proves the fact that you are passionate about your work and that you have interest within IT. It is a very infectious thing. It's what everybody wants to hire. And I can tell you on a personal note that this is something that has been always worked really well for me, where most people don't know that I do this little YouTube thing, and it's not something I really talk about, but I've never had to, because the genuine interest that I show for my job and for IT, and like I talk about my personal projects, that is the sort of personal brand, if that makes sense, even though it's not a famous brand or anything like that, that most companies and employers and customers, that's what they want to see. Because it shows passion. It's the same thing you see with the scientists and so forth, where they're like, they get respected not because they're trying to get maximum amount of likes. Usually that's actually something that for more very serious communities, they really look down upon that. If you do garbage science or you try to make articles for the likes, that's actually going to muddy or cheapen your personal brand a little bit. But the people who are very serious about this stuff and build quality brands, they're usually not on a quest to get maximum likes. They're on a quest to further their own knowledge, their own understanding, and share that with other people so that other people can grow as well. That is a personal brand that I think you should all consider cultivating when you have the foundation, because it's going to serve you for the rest of your life. Have a great day.